Vivian Valoria.
My name is Angela O'Connor.
My name is Susan Betteridge.
Nicole Collins.
Rose Ingram.
I'm a lesbian.
I identify as lesbian.
Yeah, I identify as a trans woman.
In my identity, I very strongly identify as a lesbian.
I didn't come out even to myself until I was probably in my 30s.
As far back as I can remember, I always had the feeling I was different. I didn't know quite what that was. There was a significant event that happened. I think I was in the 3rd grade. And we had this substitute, younger, and I thought she was pretty, and I guess it would be called a crush on her. And the thing was, I didn't realize that's what was going on.
7th grade, I remember this so specifically. I remember being 12 years old, sitting in like the stairwell that my school had, and my friend came downstairs and I saw her, and I was just like, it hit me. I was like, oh my god, I have a huge crush on her. Like, I think I'd had those feelings, I just didn't like realize that they existed.
I specifically remember sophomore year, there's a health class I took where I'd never been talked to about gender, ever. And then in this health class at New Trier, we just had a very in-depth conversation about gender, and I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I've been feeling.
I don't think it was so much discovered. I think it was just I just kind of knew. It's just always kind of been a little thing in the back of my mind.
I don't know, I think now, this year, I'm definitely way more confident, because it's even this is such a small thing, but it took me so long to have the confidence to put the little rainbow emoji in my Instagram bio, and I did that, and I was like, oh my god, I did it, I've done it. Or when the first time I made a post about pride, I don't know, stuff like that I feel was wow, that was a defining moment.
I think where I really started to feel comfortable with my sexuality was when Don't Ask, Don't Tell, Don't Pursue was repealed, which meant basically it was when it was okay to be gay and lesbian in the military. I was in the military, but when it was repealed, I had already gotten out.
So I guess from there, dysphoria got really bad because I was sort of after that fully realizing how I see myself. And then senior year I officially came out and just sort of been transitioning since then. So
about a year or two. It wasn't that long. I'm pretty confident who I am.
When that happened, it was almost as if society in general was accepting gay and lesbian community, accepting us for who we were.
Well, I first told my friends because they were the easiest.
So for me, the first time I had mentioned it was late sophomore year, and it got a really, really bad reception from my girlfriend at the time, so I sort of stopped talking about it until because I moved from Winnetka to Boston my junior year, and so when I got to Boston, they were much more encouraging there, so I began to sort of explore my identity a lot more there.
For the first time I came out to someone was a couple months, maybe 2 months after I was realizing I was yeah, I'm definitely girls. And I remember I was at it was our field trip to Springfield in 7th grade, and then within the next couple months I came out to more of my friends, and there was people who thought I was kidding when I said it. There was people who were a little uncomfortable. There was people who acted me accepting me was a huge deal.
Okay, well, it was kind of a gradual thing. I came out first to my best friend.
But I had been out to friends, close friends, and some of them did not accept it. And unfortunately, I lost some very good friendships because of that.
And once I honestly was in a committed relationship with a woman, I finally came out to my family directly. And I wanted her to be more open-minded about it than she really was. and I knew it was going to be hard, and it was really hard. It was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do.
And then like freshman year, I was more out by like joining CTA here and being like very out to all the people within that group. So like my mom basically knew from the time I was like 12, maybe earlier than I knew. But I never explicitly came out to her until my sophomore year, which was, 3 years later. And I remember going downstairs to my mom who's doing laundry, giving her a hug and going, I'm gay. And she was like, okay, I love you, bub. And I went upstairs. And I feel like that was like, just like being like, yes, I know you know this. I'm not ashamed of it. I feel like that was a big deal for me.
I used to run an LGBTQ podcast, and for that I put my pronouns as they, them, and then my mom had found the website and sort of asked me a lot about it, and that was really rocky.
And then I came out to my mom. That was in a car, which was kind of fun, actually. I was sitting in the back seat with my sister, and my sister goes, hey mom, Rose has a crush on so-and-so. Oh, and by the way, she's gay. And then she told my dad, I think, because I don't think I've ever officially come out to him.
I'm very, my own relationship with my family, they've always loved me, but when I actually officially came out to them and individually, at different times in my life, they've always accepted me.
Like, I'm not explicitly out to my dad. I've never come out to him, and that's a lot of that's because I just do not know what his reaction would be.
Texas is a very Republican state, and I've spent a couple of years there.
You got beat up if anybody even confirmed that you were during that time and that place. We stayed in the closet. I had to evolve, in my own accepting of me, and leaving the island. I joined the Navy and I came to the mainland.
Yeah, I mean, Winnetka was weird back when. I think there has, especially in the last few years, been a huge cultural change in regards to trans acceptance.
There are so many things that I feel like definitely just like a few years ago were very different. Like I remember being in kindergarten. This was 2006, and I remember saying I want to marry Grace, who was my neighbor. I was like, love her, and I was 5. I mean, that doesn't mean anything. I was 5, and this boy in my class goes, you can't do that. That's illegal. Girls can't marry girls. And like that sounds so extreme, him saying that, but like he was right.
Well, last year, there was a person in my grade who I found out was outing me to a bunch of people, which was not fun because I wasn't really officially out yet. It was kind of tough, and a lot of my friends were there for me, but I had this one friend who kind of wasn't, and kind of stood up for the other person a lot of the time, so we kind of ended up fighting a lot because of that.
Absolutely. I've heard them in both very derisive, malicious ways, as well as almost flippant, like, don't be a fag or something like that. But they're saying it in a joking manner. It's like, well, no, at the root of that, what you're saying is don't be weak, don't be a gay man.
But as an adult in the military, I can think of at least a handful of incidences where some negative comments were made towards me or in my direction, and that was the hard part about having been in the military, because that was, at that time, you could not be gay or lesbian and be in the military. So I had to just take it. A lot of times I just had to take it and ignore it.
I don't know, like guys in my psych class this year, they made some joke, like my teacher was like, oh, who's your celebrity crush? And they all said like men, and they were all laughing and joking and being like, ha ha ha, obviously not. And it just felt really gross being like, someone would see a relationship between two men as a joke, which it's like not, it's just a relationship. I don't know, there's stuff like that is casual, but it's very harmful, I feel like, because it just normalizes all those like mean things.
We've come a long way, and we have a long way to go. So I think we're fortunate here, and I think it's gotten better in the last, obviously the last 15, 20 years now that there's, we have gay marriage is legal. It's an amazing thing that our country has come so far.
I think it's become a lot more accepting and a lot more like everyone can be who they are.
It's changed in that it's the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. That's a positive for the gay and lesbian community that want to serve, in the military. And overall, in general, there are a lot of TV series now on TV. There's a lot of sitcoms that have gay characters. I think that's a plus. That visibility.
In 2014, 2015, it was like every month there was a new state, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this is happening so quickly. And I remember it was exactly my 14th birthday that same-sex marriage was legalized nationwide. And I feel like that sort of acceptance has definitely changed. It's definitely less hush-hush. Like, I remember being told, like, oh, you can't tell little kids about gay people, like, that's bad. And now there's, like, TV shows for little kids with gay parents, which is amazing in my mind. Like, that just warms my heart so much. Because if I had seen that when I was little, I would have seen that, like, oh, I'm not oh, that's a thing. Like, that's a possibility. Yes, I have 3 times. Each time has been very different and very interesting.
I have not been to Pride, but I would love to go to Pride because it's just such a community experience, and it's such like a feeling of you can be whoever you are, and like everyone loves everyone and accepts everyone for who they are.
Oh yeah. Well, we've had Pride in the park. It's just a great time for us to celebrate who we are, and also to welcome others. You don't have to be gay or lesbian or transgender or bisexual to celebrate the gay community.
I've been to the one in Chicago quite a few times. I love it. It's one of the most fun, liberating, truly proud things that we as a community, I think, can do and should continue to do. And it's really special to be able to, I think, connect with our community in that way and feel accepted and feel loved. I remember back to going to a Pride parade, and I went with a gay guy friend of mine and having that one of those first friend coming out moments to him.
Okay, so the first Pride I went to was like extremely powerful for me, but also it was like really happy and I was joyous. I got to spend time with my friends. I got to see all these fun people and fun music, and it was just so joyous. But it was also like somewhat painful because that was in 2016, so it was June 26th. It was exactly 2 weeks after the Pulse shooting at in Orlando, where 49 people were killed at a gay club. And because of that, I had friends who later told me that they didn't go to Pride that year because they were scared for their own safety. So I feel like I'd considered going before that shooting had happened, and then afterwards I was like, I don't know if I should go. I don't know. I don't want to be like killed. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go because that is what's necessary. I'm not gonna let like fear take over. And I went, and there was so much like in memoriam of the 49 people who had been murdered. And I think like that was like the most impactful Pride I'd had. The 2 ones I've been to since were like, they were fun, and I had a lot of fun, but I wasn't as impacted as that first one. And because I feel like that's what's most important about it. I think it's not just a party, it's more of like a very like a protest and stuff. And like to be like, oh, there's a bunch of weirdos there, and I'm like, exactly, like it's embracing the weird. And people like, because you spend so long being called like a weirdo for who you are, and finally that's like a good thing.
If you surround yourself with people who are very supportive of the LGBTQ community, then maybe it'll be easier to eventually come out. You know, if you're willing to take that chance, you know, to come out, make sure you have at least one or two family members who are on your side and supportive of you. You know, and then take baby steps to come out. But no matter what, don't give up.
You don't have to label anything, because labels are kind of stupid sometimes, because sometimes it makes you more confused to put a label on things, and also just like brush things off. It's not worth getting super upset about homophobic comments or
ask questions. Find maybe somebody that you want to go to coffee with that maybe is gay, even if you're not sure you are. I think also in terms of coming out to your parents, at times it might be a little tough love with parents if they're not willing to accept you. Let them know that like this is who you are, and if you want to have the loving relationship with them that they want, they need to accept you.
The struggle with those things and like discovering yourself, I feel like you need to know it's not a race. It's not like, oh, well, I'm this age and I don't know this about myself. I have to know this at this certain time or else this won't happen. It's like, you're okay. Like, you don't need to come out to your mom by your 20th birthday or whatever. Like, and there's no race to come out to other people as well. Because it's like, you don't need to do that if you don't want to. And also, I think it's just important to know that, like, I don't know, you exist and there's other people like you who exist, and what you're going through isn't unique. You're not the only person in the world who's been through this. But like, there's a whole community that has had so many just similar experiences to you, and you're not alone. And it's just like, but you don't need to race to become yourself. You can just be as you are right now.